All right, let's get rid of that. Hey, everybody. How we doing? Hope everybody's having a wonderful start to their weekend. Today is Friday, right? Yes, today is Friday. My goodness. So happy to see you all. Good Lord. I don't know what just happened there. Y'all. Golly. I got puppies crawling up my legs and kids screaming in the background and it's all good. It's part of being a working YouTuber or something like that. Let's say hello to live. We'll say hello to chat. There we go. Law Talk with Mike. Even though your picture is like this, you sent this. We'll forgive you because I don't think there's one that you need. But if you are available, I sent you an email with a link. Let me know. Potentially criminal. Interesting that you were here in the live chat. We'll get to you here in a minute. Trish Norman, hello. Good to see you. KN, I'm just going to flat out say that even though I can't stand Doocy, I don't really have a problem with this. 8 feet is a bit too close to be nosing yourself into something that likely doesn't concern you. Good to see you. Bridge the Divide, hello. Janice Farmer, hello. Grendel S. Rage in the house. Twin Regime says hello. Johnny O and Co. Pat Dalger, good to see you. Janice Farmer, good to see you. Charlie Welch, always fun to see you. Bad Moon Rising says good evening. And then Daryl M says, no, you're wrong. It's good morning. See, already a fight in the side chat. You guys, you're killing me. Judy, you got this. Good to see you. Good to see you. Roisin says, Day I do hoot. Hello, friends. Good to see you. All right. I think Abby Paulin says, hi, all from Stormy, Alabama. Celebrating 12 years of marriage this weekend, and I'm bedbound due to knee, leg swelling with lots of pain. Hubby is still trying to make it better. Well, I hope you get to feeling better sooner than later. Congratulations on 12 years of marriage. I know it can be very difficult. It can also be a joy. So congratulations. And I really do hope you get to feeling better soon. Dave Malik, hello. Good to see you. Bass here says, donuts. Clive Wells, good to see you. Michael Acosta says, limiting rights, not even close. Don't be within 8 feet recording what could quickly escalate into a dangerous and violent situation. Whereas I don't necessarily disagree with you. We'll get into the here in a minute. Let's see here. Who else am I missing? Did I miss anybody? Dib Dib, hello. Good to see you, Dib Dib. And then it jumps on me. How you like that? I know I'm missing some people. Mrs. Schrodinger's cat in the house. Good to see you. Sam I am. Hello. Daryl M says, no, it's not Friday. It's Saturday. Only for people who live in the future. Hello, Freckles. Good to see you. Bandon says, hello, everybody. Good to see you, Bandon. Michelle Hogue is good to see you. Tones Over Things says, hey, Johnny O, can I just say before we get into a huff about this new law in Arizona, let's ask ourselves, will this really be such a hindrance to us or just the frauditors? That's a good question. And I think we're going to address it here as well. Yoel, good evening. Good to see you. Jason says, sup. Vert de Ferk says, hello, all you plot holders. Holders. My goodness. Paul Anonymous one says, I'm doing brilliantly and terribly. So is life. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. Up and out. Good to see you. Let's see here. Chili Matthew Raphael. I love that picture. So good. Sane Rose says, everyone. Peter Noddle says, good day, mate. I got that sauce. It's very nice. All right. Grendel S. Rage for $2 says, you're violating my public rights. I'm terribly sorry, Grendel. Thank you for that super chat, by the way. All right. So with me today, I actually have a guest, a criminal defense attorney of 8 years, spent 2 years as a prosecutor from the Cleveland, Ohio area, just in case you know where Cleveland was. He says his channel tries to cover criminal defense related topics in the news and general legal education. He is a Leo, oldest of 3 kids, but unfortunate ladies, he is not single. Everybody help me to welcome for the first time on the show, potentially criminal, aka Sean. Don't forget you are muted. There we go.
Good evening, everybody. How you guys doing?
We're doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Week's
Thank you for
over.
joining me on such short notice. I just saw this with Irish Demon, and I knew I was going live to that anyways. And I figured, what the hell? Let's talk about this law.
No. There's a lot to talk about.
There is.
From such a little law.
That's one thing that kills me. It's one page. I pulled it up. I was like expecting to have to spend a few hours like sifting through all the
Mm-hmm.
legalese and jargon and whatnot. And no, it's
Mm-hmm.
literally one page. So
Yes.
we'll get into that here in a minute. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you came to, becoming a YouTuber.
Yeah. So, guys, my name's Sean Martin. I'm an attorney in the Cleveland area. I do criminal defense work. I run a general practitioner firm, though. Also, so if you happen to be in the Cleveland area, you know, get in touch with me. I do all kinds of stuff, but I do a lot of criminal defense work. That's my focus. For me, that's the fun stuff. I worked for a couple years as a prosecutor. Tried it. I thought it might be for me. Trying to do what I thought was like helping fight the bad guys, but it really wasn't for me. Wasn't. Didn't like how things were being done. Not saying anything was done bad. I disagree with the philosophy and the way things were being handled. So, kind of went back to criminal defense work, and I've been that way ever since. Um, my channel, we kind of cover everything. If it's criminal related, I like to try to talk about it. For example, like the whole Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing. I never talked about it on my channel except for the one time to explain like it did Amber commit perjury and what could happen to her. Other than that, it doesn't. I'll talk with other attorneys and go on other shows, but like I try to keep it as criminally focused as possible because that's the thing I know the best. It's the thing I do the best.
Fair enough.
Um, if there's trials going on, I try to stream those during the day if I'm available. So either through here at my home or if I'm at the office, I'll try to stream them. The one I'm planning on streaming this month coming up is Sarah Boone. It's down in Florida. She basically let her boyfriend suffocate inside a suitcase. So that'll be an interesting murder trial at the end of the month.
Let her boyfriend suffocate.
Well, there's some question about if he put himself in there. She doesn't. She did. If he put himself in there, she didn't actually do it. So, did she actually commit murder? So
I see.
yeah.
Up and Out says, "Nice beard. A trimmed beard is good." Hint, hint. I have no idea what you're talking about. Up and Out.
Yeah.
No clue.
I only trim. I only clean up because of my job.
See, I'm the same way. If I don't have to shave, I don't like shaving. Obviously, I'm not gonna. Just not gonna happen. That's what it is. Okay. What's the significance of airplane model? Oh yeah, you have an airplane.
Oh,
back
okay,
here.
yeah. So that's my grandfather flew for United for like ever, and he had it sitting in his office. And when we kind of cleaned out the house after he passed away, I was like, that looks pretty cool. I'd like to have it, and nobody else cared, so just kept it.
That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's old as dirt too. It's like the white paint starting to turn yellow on it, so it's been around for a while.
That means it's well broken in. Yep.
Yes.
All right, so let's dive right into the reason why we're here. I would say this is going to be a long stream tonight, but as you have already said, it is one page. Talking about Arizona House Bill 2319. It's 34 lines long. It's not even a full page. Now, with this bill, it makes it unlawful for a person to knowingly make a video recording of law enforcement activity if the person making the video recording does not have the permission of a law enforcement officer and is within 8 feet of where the law enforcement activity is occurring. That's like the gist, I guess we'll go with. Now, after reading this a couple of times, and I think you've read it as well, yes?
Yes.
Now, we talked a bit about this in the Code 2319. That's actually
I saw
funny.
that.
I did. I missed it. Good catch there, Judy. You got this. The problem, I don't necessarily have a problem with police officers telling people to back off and whatever, keep their distance. The 8 foot, I don't have a problem with 8 feet. I think that's probably a little too close. My issue is this is well open up for interpretation.
Yes. Yeah. This is kind of one of the downsides where people say, well, if there's a law being passed, it should be able to be fitted on one page. You should be able to read it, instead of having to pull out, something that's, like as thick as a phone book and you're trying to look at it. It should be one page. Well, this is the problem when it's one page. You don't have definitions. You don't explain what constitutes what.
Right.
And that this is where, yeah, if you look at a law and you can't figure out what's in it, well, then how do you know to comply with it? And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to happen here, because where does 8 feet start?
Right. Yeah. So this says, where law enforcement activity is occurring, and
Mm-hmm.
Who does that mean? Like the epicenter of the arrest? Does it
Mm-hmm.
mean where the police officer parks their vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where does that line start and where does it stop?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And also, an officer might view that differently from officer to officer.
right.
So yeah, I mean, it's you know, it, and I've had clients before though where cop A says, "Hey, go do stand right here," and then cop B comes up and tells them go somewhere else, and you know, there are times where that does happen, and I've even had it recorded, and the guy's like, "Well, this guy here just told me to stand right here,"
Mm-hmm.
and the other one says, "Well, no, now you're okay, well now I'm arresting you," and it's like, well, who do you comply with? Who do you follow? If one guy says you're fine, the other
Exactly.
guy says you're not, it gets yeah. Oh, Chili, yeah, good job, auditors. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that I've been saying. I'm sure a lot of other people have been saying for the
yeah,
longest time that the auditors are going to continue. This is not the first bill that has passed that has limited the freedom of the press, the First Amendment, which is counterproductive to what these auditors are trying to accomplish. I think it was Washington State that limited where you can record when it comes to public filming for commercial purposes or non-commercial purposes. There are a couple of places that have limited our First Amendment rights of where we can record in public, and this is just more. I think it's a little overreach only because this is so open to interpretation.
yeah, and I think this is I mean, this reeks of the police went to some state legislator they're really good friends with. They have a really good relationship with the FOP. Said, "Oh my gosh, these people are horrible. Look what they're doing to us." And that person said, "Oh golly gosh, these dipshits on the internet are harassing the poor police. Somebody ought to do something." And thankfully, I'm that person who can do something.
Mm-hmm.
So they put together a law. Initially, it said 15 feet when the bill was initially proposed, and then it got cut down to 8. So it's interesting to see how that went down from the start. But yeah, it's you know crappy situations encourage people to pass crappy laws.
Absolutely.
So
And the 8 feet, that's not the only thing that is open to interpretation. So there are more
yeah,
bits and pieces. This entire thing is open to interpretation,
mm-hmm.
which is the again, a lot of people might be trying to bust my chops in the side chat talking about, well, what's wrong with 8 feet? It's no big deal. It's not the 8 feet that I have a problem with. It's the murky lines of where the 8 feet starts and stops. Bert DeFerk for
Yeah,
$5 says this is another slap on our rights, but the scariest thing I've heard is SCOTUS has expressed interest in Moore v. Harper. Look it up. I'll check that one out. Thank you for that
yeah.
$5 super chat, by the way.
And here's what I'll say. Yes, do the auditors and like Chili DeCastro types, yes, are they dipshits? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But are there dickhead police officers out there who will screw with you? Most certainly.
Absolutely.
So like you're sitting there filming him. He tells you to get back. Okay, you keep stepping back. He keeps telling you like, well, that 8 feet is when I determine what 8 feet is for you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And he keeps backing you up. And I've warned you once, and you're still not 8 feet away. Congratulations, you're now arrested.
Right.
You should be able to know. You should be able to read the law, and at the very least, an attorney should be able to tell you how to comply with it. But more appropriately, in a law like this, you should be able to read it and understand. Okay, how far away can I be?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like you said, is it 8 feet? If there's an arrest going down in the middle of the road and it's Chili DeCastro, I love using him just because he's such a tool.
He's such a tool.
Yeah, I'll also, by the way, I'm putting out a video kind of going after his trifold.
Oh, very good. Yeah, we need
yeah,
more of that
yeah.
because it's so stupid. That
Oh, it's horrible.
is
Yeah. So imagine him and the police are fighting, and he's doing his like super MMA stuff, and he's got his shirt off, and he's totally not acting like a closeted gay guy as he does all this. And
He
he's
never
in the middle of
does.
the yeah, and and let's just use the example of he's in the middle of a 4-way intersection,
Okay.
and you're standing on one of the corners filming it, and there's a police car nearby, like there's a police car about 2 feet away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you 8 feet away from the law enforcement activity? If there's an officer standing there on the side just radioing stuff in to dispatch, is he part of the law enforcement activity?
Right. That can be considered law
Yeah.
enforcement activity as
Yes.
he's not ordering pizza. He's actually involved in this
Yeah.
traffic, whatever is going on, this arrest. So
Yes. And
Go ahead.
for example, even worse though, let's say there really is, one of those handful of malicious bad cops out there, the really corrupt one trying to do something bad. He runs around with a caution tape like 50 feet away, a 50-foot circle, and puts caution, police tape up saying you can't be within 8 feet of this. So now you're like 60 feet away from what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, where does that 8 feet begin? Are they allowed to do that? And even if you're like the next part talks about being in a home, what's an
Right.
adjoining room? Can I be in the doorway? Where can I be in the house? There's just so many issues here, and that's the problem. You should uh you know and I think the actually one of the worst things down here is a law enforcement activity means handling an emotionally disturbed or disorderly person who is exhibiting abnormal behavior. um you
That's
know
extremely open to
yes, I
interpretation.
mean,
Somebody could be having a bad day because their
yeah,
boyfriend broke up with them or their girlfriend, left
hmm,
town with their best dog, and he's
sure,
just having an emotional moment. I don't think he should be filming that to begin with, but
yeah,
you know. Sketch Crasher for $2 says, "Hello, Johnny O and Sean." Hello, Sketch Crasher.
hello,
Thank you so much.
yeah. And more importantly though, let's say you're, it's I'm not trying to say the police are bad, but I've had cases where, the police say, "Oh, I pulled your guy over. He was acting nervous," and I'm like, hey, define nervous.
Yeah, you're a
Like,
cop. I
yeah,
mean,
everybody's nervous. Well, and there's one cop in particular though. He would talk about he could see somebody's jugular, like the carotid artery, pulsating, and you would think it must look like a cartoon where it's like boom, boom, boom. But he said he could tell, and I'm like, okay, come on. But that's how who's exhibiting that abnormal behavior. Half these auditors when they film are exhibiting abnormal behavior, and
right.
they start fighting and reeing and screaming at stuff.
Yeah, it's just silliness.
So
Stephen York for
yeah,
14.99 Aussie says, "Frauditors forget that amendment means change. The First Amendment was required because the Constitution wasn't good enough. So why is an amendment considered sacred? Amendments can be amended." Absolutely. Thank you for that 14.99, Stephen. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing that if you abuse these rights, they will be changed, and we are seeing that happen. And this is just another thing. Now, here's the thing. I think you and I are both on the same page when it comes to the constitutionality of this law. That one, it will get challenged. There's going to be tons of frauditors who make their way over, and this is going to be great content for frauditors. And there's not, I mean, this is stuff that I won't cover because they're 100% right to challenge this law. When it does get challenged, I don't see how even a circuit court could uphold this law.
sure. Well, and I guess I just always tell people, yeah, it's meant for the auditors cause this to happen, but imagine you're sitting there eating your dinner, or you're hanging out somewhere and you see somebody getting arrested. What are you gonna do? I mean, like, what are most of us gonna? I've done this myself. I pull out my phone. Like, okay, cool. Like, I've been out, somewhere, and people start throwing hands at each other. I'll pull out my phone and scream "World Star" just like everybody else. Um, and in fact, there was a couple of years. Well, actually, it's 2 years ago now. Um, I was, downtown in Cleveland fishing off kind of like one of the piers that we have, and the police, the fish police were out, checking for licenses, and they ended up running into a guy. He was a black guy, and he didn't have having a fishing license with him. So they were gonna try to cite him. Well, it turns out he's got warrants. Okay, well, that sucks, but that's if you get caught and you have warrants, okay. Obviously, though, it was a nice day out and it was a Friday. He didn't want to get arrested and spend the weekend in jail. Nobody does. So these two gentlemen had a disagreement. Um, and since he didn't want to get arrested, the fish cop had to wait till he could get like backup to show up. Well, once backup did show up, it was like a million cops. And they get ready to kind of like, he's sitting on the hood of his car, just hanging out. And they yank him off the hood of the car and they're it's, him versus like 8 guys and they're wrestling. At one point, though, they had a dog with them. And the police, the guy handling the dog actually let the dog go in and grab the guy, like his like one leg that was flopping around. And, I don't mind the cops having to do their job, but It's like 8-on-1. Do you really need the cop jumping and biting the dude's leg?
Right.
I thought that wasn't called for, and I filmed that whole thing. And I gave that information to him and his attorney, and they did whatever they wanted with it. But it's not just for the auditors, but it's, you know, everybody. I mean, like, let's say you decide, hey, this seems weird, this seems fishy, or just let's say you're at a restaurant and you're filming it. Like, if you're sitting there eating your $100 steak, and the police come in and do something, and they're right next to you, and they're like right here, and you're filming it. Well, you're within 8 feet. Can they make you get up out of your chair and
Right.
vacate? Is that fair? I mean, that's it, and for all the laws that will be used against the people you don't like, you will get caught up in them at some point. And
Oh,
then
absolutely.
and that's what happens is, like, when it's you now, because you're going to say, well, I'm not one of those asshole guys, but the law still applies to you. So that's where, like, I know there's a bit of a ramble there, but
No, and no, these are important things because we
Yeah.
have to, you got to think about the application. It's not just the law itself, it's the application of that law. And the problem with this law, because it is so vague, where it needs to be well defined, the application of this law is, it just leaves the window open for overreach. Christian No for $4.99 says, I'm such a fan. Johnny O, digging Sean too. Happy Friday, having a cold one, enjoying the life. Well, there you
so
go.
am I.
There you go. And some old dude for $5 says, then there is challenging smartly or stupidly. I don't think many will challenge it smartly. They might do more harm than good. You're absolutely correct. The way that these frauditors will challenge is probably not going to be in the best interest of challenging the legality of this law. Does that mean they're not going to win? No. Does it mean like I said, I just think there were so many missteps with this bill. I just don't think there are a lot of things in here that are
Yeah.
let's see here. Notwithstanding subsection A of this section, a person who is the subject of police contact may record the encounter if the person is not interfering with lawful police actions. What does that mean? Including searching, handcuffing, or administering a field sobriety test. The occupant of a vehicle who is the subject of a police stop may record the encounter if the occupant is not interfering with lawful police actions. I mean, what does it mean to interfere?
Yeah.
Now, some people will look at me and say, well, obviously interfering means stopping them from doing their job. Okay, how so? Some cops
Yes,
may say
yes.
your filming is interfering with me doing my job.
Yeah. Well, and I think Chili Mete Raphael, I love that. He says, like, they'll only enforce the 8 feet if you're being an ass to them. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but you walking up on the cops while they're doing work is not gonna, if you're within 8 feet, even if you're not being like a screaming auditor, you're gonna have a bad time anyway. So it's not just for them. It's not just they're gonna enforce it on you if you're being an ass. I mean, I'm surprised. There's no cop who's I learned this in college when they arrested somebody drinking and everybody's getting around looking at what's going on. They would get the fuck back. They were very adamant about their space. So it's not just they won't be applying this arbitrarily. I mean, and if they do, that's even worse.
Yeah, well, see, and that's the thing
that I don't care if you can hate the auditors and think they're scumbags, and you can think if they did a 23andMe that there's a good chance they come back with like a 25% DNA test for their actually heritage is like an actual tool, because that's how big of a tool they are, that they're 25% Milwaukee or DeWalt. Sure. But if they're being treated like that, that's they're actually doing God's work at that point, showing that's happening.
right. Okay, let me read this.
And that boogeyman that they're actually fighting then exists.
Right. So law like this actually gives credence to what they are doing, which is kind of weird. Dave Malik for 5 says, instead of stopping recording, they just need to do something about the harassment of officers. I would tend to agree that that's more of the issue that I have. I don't give two shits about them recording. Record till you're fucking blue in the face. Don't care. My issue is when you become an agitator, when you go out there and you cause a problem. That's the issue. Sam I Am, who's been a plot hole crew member for 11 months, says, Please don't think, our polls don't think of the unintended consequences. That's true. That's true.
And that's where, once again though, it's the harassment of officers, sure, but how are we defining harassment? And then,
Right.
you go down that road of, okay, and but there's also the idea that we're dealing with the big people world, and if it turns out you can't, cops, I'll say it like this: if we have to protect the the feeler bugs of police officers, then maybe baking cookies is more of your speed than being a cop.
I would tend to agree.
So,
But, I don't. Frauditors are people yelling and screaming
oh
negative,
yeah,
nasty things at cops, whatever, But to sit there, like there was I covered a video that Blue Code Cam put out where there was a lady who was driving down the wrong way of a street, and as this police officer was attempting to do his job to do field sobriety test because he noticed there was also an open container in the car, this driver's niece ran up on the car, interfered with the stop, started yelling, screaming, and cussing him out, and completely interfering. And they let it go on far too long, a lot longer than I would have let it go on. I would have said, "Look, lady, you're interfering. Fuck off. This has nothing to do with you. Now you've inserted yourself." And she sat there and screamed at them for probably a good 10 minutes before they finally had enough and arrested her, and she resisted arrest and whatnot. So I do think that that type of harassment would definitely fall within that. We don't need to be doing this shit.
sure.
Not to, but I hear what you're saying, because yeah,
Hmm.
where is that? Again, that's one of those things. Okay, we're
Yeah.
talking about the harassment of police officers. Where is that line drawn?
Well, and I would argue, I mean, even in Ohio, there's no specific law, like this, but if you start dicking around in the middle of a police stop, they have laws they can charge you with. There's obstruction of justice,
Right.
obstruction of official business, disorderly conduct. There are laws on the books, and that address this idea of in some states they have, like, refusing an order from an officer. Okay, get away from us, step back. Because or in this case of this woman who's up in the cop's face, that definitely is obstructing official business. So they already have laws. It's just use them, and
Right.
yeah. This is also true from Rick. Yes.
If auditors weren't such inarticulate doofuses, maybe they get some respect. And that that's the thing. Again, I'll say it again, because the frauditors who come and hate watch my videos don't seem to understand it. I don't care about you filming. I really don't. I'm gonna call you out when I think it's stupid. Like when you go and audit a pickle company. Yeah, I'm gonna make fun of you for doing something completely and utterly stupid. Oh, hey, pickle company. Let's audit them, see if they respect our rights. Are you fucking stupid? Um, and again, if you going and filming in public areas, fine, do whatever the fuck you want, but don't be an agitative asshole. Don't be the guy that sits there and says, "I'm here to educate folks," and when people come up and ask you questions, you're like, "No, fuck you. I don't have to answer your questions, you piece of shit." Like, fuck off, man. Bad faith actors.
A lot of that bad faith is because they don't know actually how to answer and explain things in a way to people. So
That's true. But
yes.
it could be something as simple as, "Hey, I'm here exercising my First Amendment rights to record in public and publicly accessible areas." A lot of them even give that very line at the beginning of their videos. Just tell them that. Hey, I mean, how difficult is that? And then we could potentially avoid some of this stuff, some of these bad House Bill 2319s. I'm going to call it House Bill 2319 from now on, simply because somebody pointed it out to me. I can't believe I didn't pick it up on it. It blows my mind. I got 4 kids here. Monsters Inc. is a big part of our household, and I didn't pick up on it.
No, that was very clever. Whoever caught that.
It was.
Yeah.
Jones Over
Also,
Secrets, who's been a crew member for 7 months, says interference equals needless talking. Elio's taking Elio's attention away. I agree. The big distractions needs to stop, because that adds a potentially volatile situation. I mean, it adds to a potentially volatile situation. So
yeah, but unless they're, you still have to worry about that whole First Amendment of he can be babbling. It's like, okay, well then ignore him.
mhm.
You've got a job to do. Is he inciting imminently lawless action? Under Brandenburg? No. Okay, well, sorry, officer. Put your big kid pants on. Pretend like it's your wife or your kid standing next to you, and do your job and ignore them. Ignore them.
Right. No, I can definitely see that as well. But when does it
Yeah.
become? When is it? Again, with this where the 8 feet comes in,
Hmm.
right? 8 feet from the actual interaction. This is how they could fix this. I think 8 feet within the actual interaction between the officer and whoever the driver or the suspect, whatever. 8 feet.
Hmm.
There's your point. If you define that well, that's a well defined definition of where 8 feet starts.
Hmm.
Instead, 8 feet of police activity. There's copper outside my fucking house right now. What do you mean? I can't go out there and film? So stupid. I agree, Mr. Schrodinger's cat. Frauditors can film, but they don't have to be racist or sexist.
Well,
100% agree.
that would require them to have some sort of tact. So,
Yeah, right. Exactly. So, what else about this bill that has been signed by Ducey, by the way? This is Arizona law now. It has been signed.
mhm.
I think it was signed today or yesterday. I can't remember which. Let's see here. It looks like it was signed today. So it is now officially the law in Arizona. How long do you think it's going to be the law in Arizona before it gets challenged?
I mean, it takes a couple of. I mean, usually there's like a time frame before it gets implemented. So I don't think if it got signed today, generally it's at least like 30 days before something becomes law. So maybe 30 to 90. Oh, it's signed Wednesday. You'll go in
Wednesday,
September. Yeah.
okay.
So by September, um, somebody has to get arrested. Then that person has to fight it. They have to fight it the right way. And then they've got to try to start appealing it. So, um, and the appeal's going to take a while. I mean, appeals, even for simple misdemeanor offenses, can take a couple of months, 6, 7 months easily. And that's just to the intermediate appellate level court. And they might not do anything about it. And then may have to go all the way to your state Supreme Court. And those are, you know, those are a whole nother world too, because they have their own rules. It's going to take a little time to get through it. They're going to want to argue about it. Then they're going to release their opinion on it. So you could be looking at a year and a half of this, possibly,
Mm.
easily. I mean, I would hope that the appellate court in between immediately said, "Look, this is vague, this is invalid," and strikes it down. But when those usually happen, you're only in that appellate court's jurisdiction. So if there's like 10 appellate courts in Arizona and only one strikes it down, it's only valid in that one spot. So you'd have to have them all start killing it off.
So I'm reading this, and it looks like where did it go? It said this is a petty crime. Where'd it go?
Yes. Yeah, unless you've been convicted previously.
So petty crime. What exactly does that mean? Like a ticketable offense, as I understand it.
It sounds like if it's a petty crime, it sounds like it's a very low level infraction. The closest thing I can come up with is like in Ohio, you have what's called a minor misdemeanor. You can only be fined. You can't actually be jailed for it. But it sounds like it's about as minor as it can get. But I don't. Even then, and some people might say, well, if you can't go to jail and it's going to be like a $10 fine or something like that, who cares? Whether you're being charged unfairly or unconstitutionally with a law that's like a $10 fine or it's something you could lose your life over, those are, in reality, that injustice is the same regardless of the scale.
Right. So scale shouldn't matter in this type of thing because you got to think
Yeah.
about it. Once we open that door, even just a little bit, then
Mm-hmm.
that's when somebody can say, well, let's see how far we can push that sucker open. And by the
Sure.
time he gets, never talks about how the slippery slope is is a fallacious argument. It's only fallacious
Mm-hmm.
when applied correctly, right? So if we're allowing it to happen, if we sit there and watch it, that means it assumes that somebody's going to step up and say, hey, we don't need to be doing this. Yeah, these minor infractions like that, again, it's dangerous because of the implications, because of the application of this law.
Mm-hmm. And somebody was, I understand how frauditors are. I understand they're dickheads. I understand they're insufferable. And yes, even though I'm an attorney, I still wouldn't mind half the time if half these videos ended with their chiclets being knocked out with a couple of nightsticks at the end of it. Like, I would laugh at that, but then I would also be horrified that the cops are acting that way.
Right.
As much as I would love to see that. I mean, constitutional rights are like a bulletproof vest. The cops can wear them, but so can a bank robber.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Good guys and people looking to cause problems can use it. And it sucks. It's not fun. But, you're a policeman. Your job's to go fight bad guys. Okay, some auditor. I mean, that's the worst thing you're dealing with. I don't know what to tell you. And at the end of the day, that Constitution is still, the First Amendment. All your Bill of Rights, uber alles, like it's at the top.
Mhm.
Everything else has to conform to that. So yeah, it does suck and it is messy and it does cause problems, but that's how it has to be. Otherwise, you can get to the point where if you don't keep that standard the whole time, you end up getting the police knocking down your door and arresting you because you dropped the N bomb on Twitter, as happens
Right.
in England, for example.
Right. Right.
Um, or like today for Count Dankula. Are you familiar with him, Johnny?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. He's a Scottish. He's a guy from Scotland. He's a comedian.
Mm.
He made a YouTube video a couple years ago about he wanted his to piss his girlfriend off, and the one thing he thought would be funny is to have her dog, a pug, to do beg. He would have it do like raise his one paw like a Nazi salute, and it's hilarious because he would say instead of saying like you want to go outside, you want to go for a walk, he'd say like gas the sons of Abraham.
Right.
He would say that, and he'd say, "You want to go get the sons of it? You want to go? You want to go do it? You want to go do it?" And the dog doesn't.
It's a
It's
yeah.
just
It's a
yeah.
dog.
Dog's just here like something happy, and the dog's
Right.
jumping around barking, and he ended up getting arrested and charged for being grossly offensive. That's actually what the law says in Scotland.
Hmm.
He was arrested, taken to jail, went to court. He could have been jailed up to a year for that, for a joke. And he had to appeal it, and he appealed it all the way through, and basically he got told to kick rocks today. Um, but that's where this road leads. Now that's a
Right.
long way away, but there's no kind of like the Second Amendment. Like, why do you need this? Why do you need that? No, the answer is fuck you. There is no. I'm not gonna give a little bit here. Like, we stay where we're at.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand. I do think that certain things need to be revisited. I mean, I'm pretty sure our founding fathers wrote the Constitution with the idea that we would go in and update as needed. The
Hmm.
simple fact that they left it open to they left some things open to interpretation and left a way for these
Yeah.
things to change. And the problem with sheep, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to bring back public those things. That's not going to happen. Come on now. Um, part of the Constitution, part of responsibility that our lawmakers have, that our representatives have, is to make this something that I mean, we're talking about a document that's over 200 years old, and we're trying to apply it to modern,
Hmm.
modern issues.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work at times, right? Because they didn't, our founding fathers didn't know about fax machines and the fact that I could be here in
Yeah.
Texas and you're there in Ohio, and we're having a conversation
Hmm.
face to face, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Reaching people in Australia. There's a
Sure.
lot of things that they didn't know, they didn't account for, but they left a way to update.
Hmm.
And when we have negative stressors like frauditors who are, borderline agitators, who I would consider agitators, period.
I think that's a fair way to look at them as agitators.
Right. Again, there's some that get out there, they just go out there and film. Like cop watchers that
Hmm.
just film. They stand at a decent distance away. They don't cause problems. They don't jump into, they don't become part of the issue. I'm perfectly fine. I have zero problem with that. I think fine, do it. There you go. But the ones that like Chili Messy Raphael, when he's interfering with a traffic stop, a DUI traffic stop, like he did the other day, screaming and yelling at everybody.
Yeah, but he was on the other side of the road, so I mean, if he's gonna
Yeah,
go over there
well,
and act like a lunatic,
right, yeah, and I think the cops handled it perfectly fine. Right, they just ignored him. They, interacted.
exactly.
And it wasn't until she started yelling back and forth with Chili they said, "All right, that's enough. You're borderline interfering with our ability to assess the situation." And again, it was just a one time. Hey, can you, whatever. And then they went right back to it. They did exactly what they should have done. But it's that agitation, and we don't need people going into like post offices like Glenn Serio. Hey, I'm here to, heavy breathe in a corner, just to cause some issues.
Yeah, yeah, yes. And I would think it depends on And if you'd have tried that back in 1791, like Glen Serio probably would have got beaten repeatedly by the people in his town.
Sure.
But I think you would have the founding fathers say, part of, I mean, like, I'd say the big example is John Adams. He defended the soldiers in the Boston Massacre. It does not matter still. That right at the end of the day is a right to be an asshole. It is the right to be insufferable. Now, if there's reasons you get kicked out and the people there you have the right to exclude people, sure. But I mean, I think that's still, for us to enjoy that right of doing whatever we want that doesn't cause problems, you have to accommodate these people running wild with it every once in a while.
Sure. Sure. And again, I'm with you. Whereas I'll call out the bad behavior, I'll never say, hey, you shouldn't be doing this, or you can't do this, more specifically. I'll never say, you can't do this. You can't act like an asshole. You can act like an asshole. You just did. I don't think you should, because I think it's going to be counterproductive to what you are trying to do. I'm here to protect the First Amendment. Okay, cool. Well, HB 2319 says you're not. Says you're here to actually put the First Amendment under attack.
Well, and that's where I think, the people who passed this thought that was the case, but in reality, HB 2319 is the attack on the First Amendment. I think when you have that
Sure.
vagueness of the law,
Right.
That's the threat now. It's no longer the auditor.
Right. No, exactly. But some people would argue that this law is in response to
certainly
the
it
auditor,
is.
right?
Yeah, it is. And that's where I think I said, bad situations and bad experiences lead to people making bad laws,
Right.
Like I said, the police went up to somebody and they said, somebody needs to do something about this to help us. And instead of that congressman saying, like, get out of here,
Yeah.
because they accept his checks.
Big boy pants on, yeah.
Yeah, they accept his checks, Okay, I guess, what do you want me to write? So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, this stuff here, this is one of the things that has always been kind of on the forefront of any type of response video I do to frauditors, is because of these types of knee-jerk reactions. And that's what this is. This is a knee-jerk reaction. Let's be honest. Had this been actually thought out and carefully crafted, maybe not so much a knee-jerk reaction. Maybe it would have been a little bit more applicable, or at least more pointed at, people who are negatively inserting themselves into these interactions.
Sure. I'm sorry, I'm reading some of these comments as they go by. Tiger Country, he says, yeah, is it about speaking out against government? Hey, the police doing something is the government acting. I mean, the police arresting someone is the government enacting policy literally right in front of you.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the most, for all of us, I'm in a little bit of a different situation given my job, but for most people, that's the only direct interaction you have with the government imposing the policies and the laws that they create is through the police. Whether you're watching somebody get a speeding ticket or you watch your neighbor get arrested, that's the most direct way. That is a government official. That is a government agent. To say you don't have, okay, yeah, you can go argue with your congressman, sure. But that police officer in front of you is doing the government's bidding. He's doing all of that.
Right.
You should have the right to say, hey, you are a piece of shit. You are a Nazi. You shouldn't be doing that. I've, once, when I, every time I go back to where I went to undergrad for in college, for homecoming, you see the liquor control cops who, I assume those are the people who never got invited to the parties as kids, go around busting, 20-year-old people drinking beer. It's like, don't you have anything better to do? Like, you are not actually helping anything. Like, go find a real job. I'm allowed to say that to him. I should be allowed to say that to him.
Sure.
That's a nonsense law. Do you really need to be out here enforcing this? Like, what? Oh my God! Yes, you're protecting the world today. And sure, it's a law, but that's my way of disagreeing with the law, because certainly it's never going to get overturned. I'm not going to be able to overturn it, but the government agents, you have the right to do that, especially a cop. Now, yes, if it's Janice sitting at the clerk of court's office and you're screaming at her, okay, yes, that's a dickhead move, but if you are a government employee, it's sometimes not fun.
So Tones overthinks it. It says police enforce the law as it is written. They cannot change it on the spot. Only lawmakers can change it. Whereas in theory, that is correct. In practice, not always, because sometimes police are a little, they use better or worse judgment on how that law gets applied. Some people it's a little more strict. Some people it's not as strict. So there is an interpretation and the application of that law that between police officers, and I think we do have the right to demand that it's more, there's going to be some extenuating circumstances here and there, sure, but it should be a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for?
You should be able to know what the law is as you're following it.
Right.
And yeah, and just like cops speeding, if you're speeding down the road, they don't have to get everybody speeding, but at least you can't go above 70. That's the limit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not up to just the officer saying, I think you're going too fast.
Right.
It's were you going over 70? Okay, well then, yes. And also, I apologize. I sometimes ramble, so.
Oh, no,
sorry.
no, you're good. No, like I said,
Yeah.
if it's not you rambling, it's me rambling. So one of us is going to be rambling, and they get tired of listening to me ramble all the time. So, more than welcome to ramble on. So Investigator 77 says government employees also have rights, like a right to work in a safe environment. They are not paid to be abused by the public. So that's a good question. All right, that's a good point to bring up. Where does that, just because I'm a public official, how much abuse do I have to take? Like, let's for instance say, the secretary to John Cornyn, how much abuse does that secretary have to take?
And I would argue, I think that's a kind of a scope of scale. Like, if you are the people working for a senator and yours is direct staff, like, if you can't, like, yes, people are going to be pissed. You are in a massive position. Your boss is a senator. You should be, for your state, and like for Texas, that's like what, 30 million people. Yeah. So some of them are going to be pissed off.
Sure.
Like, because I want to talk to the senator. Well, he's not here. I'm the person filling in. Okay. Yeah. You know what? You're going to have to do it unless you can go find the senator, and he's not going to talk. So, that, like I said, I think it's a little different when it's, somebody in the clerk of court's office, or like Chili. I don't know if you saw this when he was trying to fill out forms the one day, and the janitor's behind him fires up the vacuum because the janitor's trying to do his job in the courthouse.
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
Which I thought, wow, that is not an issue of sensory overload and a possible spectrum issue.
Yeah.
Just saying, Chili, you might want to work on that a little bit.
You might want to give up you might want to give up the steroids and meth, allegedly.
Yes, the steroids and meth are not helping your cognitive issues. Yeah,
allegedly.
Well, I'll say it. I'll say it. Chili, come at me. I haven't damaged you, so show your defamation. In fact, Chili, I may be a fat guy, but at least I can eat an apple with my teeth. In fact, I'll challenge you to a corn on the cob eating contest, Chili. Let's see if those implants stay in. Sorry.
Allegedly.
And yeah, and Maxie Kennedy's right. You have the screaming at librarians in small towns. I understand that. But once again, I am not willing to alter, one of the most sacrosanct rights that I have. And it's the most unique in the world amongst, and even though everybody in the world has this right, but not every country defends it. It has it existing. It's yeah, sure. It sucks that a librarian's going to get hassled and harassed, but if that at the end of the day means the First Amendment stays as strong and as robust as it is,
well,
it's the same reason. Like, if a cop gets shot in a bank robbery, am I for more gun control? No. I mean, if bad things are gonna, if we're gonna do this because bad things are happening, then everything gets whittled away at some point.
So Bridget Divide says, at what point does recognizing the social contract come into play? And I think as a tag along to that, or piggyback onto that, somebody also mentioned that the secretary is not an elected official. So at what point, would that social contract kind of thing be in play? We didn't elect the secretary of the Senator Cornyn. She just happened, or he just happened to get, they get hired.
Yeah. Sure. But I think, I think if you're the senator, you're the secretary for senator, if you don't understand the idea that you're basically kind of like the shit magnet, I don't know what to tell you there. But yes, if you're the librarian in, Cowhoof, Indiana, and you're just, the nice librarian, you do your job, you help kids in the reading program over the summer earn the stickers to read all their books. Yes, you don't need Chili coming up to you and harassing you.
Mm-hmm.
But, once again, I mean, that's, I mean, what are we going to do about that? Because, we start passing laws, and like I said, we start passing laws, we get laws like this where they aren't vague, or if they're not vague and they're clearly defined, they assault the rights. And once again, it's like you're fine with those rights being crushed down on Chile. Eventually, you're going to be stuck in a situation where you're in facing that. And it might not be intentional. Like I said, you're at the restaurant, you're watching the police do their job. You're within 8 feet and you're filming. Are you going to get up out of your chair and leave? No, you're not. You're going to tell that cop to go fuck himself, and then congratulations, now you're arrested. Because now they could say, oh, you're a piece of shit auditor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's the thing, because that's one reason why I don't particularly care for this law.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of people that are defending it, saying no, 8 feet, you don't need to be within 8 feet. Again, I don't have a problem with 8 feet. That's not the problem. It's where does that 8 foot start? What is an emotionally unstable person? What does that look like? Is it somebody who's just kind of sitting in the corner, not saying anything to anybody? Or is it, somebody who's flailing about? I mean, where are these? It's just not well thought out. It's not well defined. And Ron Dolan says, what happens if we have the right to refuse service to anyone at any time? Well, you still have that right, especially if you're a private business. If you're in the public sector, though, for instance, and this is what I would say. My response to the whole, what about the librarian, for instance, right? Librarian can say you are causing a public disturbance in this place because there's, the quietness of it.
You can be trespassed.
Yeah, you can be trespassed from public areas.
Yeah, and I when I was an assistant prosecutor, we had a sovereign citizen. I mean, he sucked at it, but he was to the point where he was only allowed in the courthouse during the pendency of his case. Like, he had the right to, file a document. That was it. But like, he had to get access. He had to schedule time, like work out time to come down to the law library so he could do his research, because otherwise, he was told, like, you can't wander the courthouse and be a dick to people right now, because it was a big issue. But yeah, this 8 feet, I mean, 8 feet is, I think, more than enough. I think that's fine. It'll work. And okay, correction. So it's, please, I guess I'll say it like this. Yes. The First Amendment, uber alles. Okay, it's, frauditor, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous job. I'm not going to lie, but that's what it is. I mean, the world is rough. People are dickheads. Wear a helmet. I mean, I don't know what more you want me to say.
I would say that I don't think anybody thinks that somebody should be able, especially somebody outside of a traffic or a stop or whatever, should be allowed to insert themselves. And at 2 a.m. if somebody's getting into my face, and I have nothing to do with you, you need to back the fuck off.
Yes, and like I said, those are clear situations where the cops can arrest you. You are not allowed to get up in their business like that.
Right.
But if I'm 5 feet away and I'm just screaming, "You're a bunch of Nazis! You shouldn't be allowed to do this!" Like, for example, I'm not gonna lie. Like, let's say I mean, like, hold on, this way. I mean, that's an RPG tube back there. I'm working on restoring. Like, if I saw an ATF agent arresting somebody, I'd be screaming at that guy, he's a Nazi piece of shit for enforcing unconstitutional gun laws. Like, I hope you sleep at night. How many dogs did you kill at Waco? I'd probably talk a lot of shit to him. And you know what? I would stay out of his way, because I also don't want him to shoot me. But I'm not gonna be nice to him because they're doing horrible stuff. But if they're doing it off to the side and screaming and look at this Nazi, look what he's doing, you're a horrible human being. Um, I mean, like, go bake cookies. Krispy Kreme's always hiring if
Yeah,
you don't like it.
I do agree that. Okay, so I've said this often that
Yeah.
being a police officer is one of the few jobs in the world where you can do everything right and still end up dead.
Sure. Sure.
But that's the job.
Yeah. That's why we
And
we give you a big shiny black gun and a bulletproof vest. And I've called out police officers before on this idea. They will break every law, and they will break the speed and sound record for only one call over all other calls. Officer needs assistance, officer down. You have people who will move heaven and earth. Your bros will come do whatever they can to save your ass. You know, it's a job that's dangerous, but it's not as though it's. I mean, they have certain things that we all don't get, and I just like I said, it is dangerous, but that comes with the territory. I mean,
right,
like
yeah, you don't sign up for a
yeah,
police department expecting become a cop expecting to
yes.
fold origami birds
Well,
and
if you're in Valdi, apparently you do.
gosh,
Got
don't
to protect and serve that fucking pension.
I just
If it
that
also, if anybody out here knows anybody from Uvalde and they're, you happen to know one of the cops there, um, they're a pussy. They're a horrible human being.
I just that whole situation.
Sorry.
Uh,
I generally speaking, guys, I don't mind the police. They do their job. But it's just,
right.
yeah. Also, whoever said the good quote about the German national anthem? I mean, it's just the First Amendment overall, and if above all else, and it sounds better saying Uber alles. So
So again, there are some things that you and I would agree on, and some things that we disagree on, which is perfectly
sure.
fine. I would like to foster open discussions about all these
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
and I do think that we need to make sure that if we are going to have discussions about, say, for instance, the Second Amendment, I think that's something that does need to come up. I do think we need to think about the goings on. Think about why it's okay for someone who's on the federal no-fly list because we think he's a terrorist. Why is it easy able to walk into a Florida gun shop and purchase whatever firearms he wants without any kind of, hey, maybe we need to think about this, what's going on here? I mean, I think again, speaking back about to the framers of the Constitution, how they wanted the Constitution to be updated as it needed. They gave
Sure.
us the ability to. When looking at things like the First Amendment, we have legislated the First Amendment before, especially when it comes to freedom of talk. You don't have a carte blanche freedom of speech. You just don't.
Sure.
Like, I can't call you, Sean. I can't call you. I can't go to your bosses and be like, hey, not saying you have bosses. I'm pretty sure.
I am my own manager, so yes, you're
You're
speaking to the
self-employed,
manager right now.
yeah. But if you were employed, or I couldn't go to the bar, for instance, and say, hey, he needs to be disbarred because this, he, whatever, put out some sort of, slander about what you did. He's diddling, 12-year-olds in the alley behind the street during whatever, what I mean? I can't do that.
Sure.
I also can't, as a journalist, can't write a slanderous or libelous piece of article, even in an op-ed. I can't say, well, this is my opinion. It's still libelous.
Sure.
So we do have laws and whatnot that have limited speech. Like, I can't walk into a theater and yell fire.
Okay. Oh, please don't use that one.
I know. I knew it. I was going to get you. I knew I was going to
Don't
get you
use
on
that one, please, 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 please.
I knew I was going to get you on that one.
Oh gosh, I hate that one the most because, when people use that one, I mean, well, there's I hate that one because it's dead law now. But when you read the case of Shank v. United States, the guy who actually that's the case it's from. He was a socialist, and okay, you may not like socialists, you may not like communists. All he was doing is handing out pamphlets saying, hey, we shouldn't go fight in World War I. That's all he did.
Mm-hmm.
And they sent him to prison for the Sedition Act. And they equated literally like, hey, here's a pamphlet. We shouldn't go to Europe. We shouldn't be fighting the war.
Right.
Don't fight for all these kings and queens and these inbred morons doing all this, intertwined nonsense that's killed millions and millions of people. That's all he did. And he went to prison for it. And they equated that to shouting fire in a theater. Like they consider that a clear and present danger. Handing out pamphlets.
Yeah.
So
again, this is where we should be like, no, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. But
yeah.
Let's see here. Tone says, for Sean, I have to disagree. No job should require you to lose your rights and self-respect or submit to unwarranted abuse, especially when you do risk your life to protect the public. I
mean, people. I'm a defense attorney. I mean, I'm not exactly well liked by people. I mean, if I had $1 for every time somebody came at me or was upset with me or threatened me, well, Jesus, I wouldn't have to do this anymore. I could sit here and just paint like Warhammer figurines for a channel.
Yeah.
Life would be so good. I'd be doing it like on my beach in Cuba. But it's I don't know. I guess, and yes, I understand. And people are saying like no rights are absolute. You guys are correct, but you should be, pretend it's like an RPG or an MMORPG. You're maxing out somebody's stats. You should max them out as much as you can, and you should always make sure they stay maxed out. I mean, it's kind of like you ever watch King of the Hill?
A long time ago.
Okay.
I don't watch a lot of television anymore.
Okay, well, I only remember this because I saw it as a kid and I thought it was hilarious. They're sitting there drinking beer and Hank's got like the thing and he's trimming a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And he just keeps talking and like they come back and forth throughout the show and they're drinking beer and trimming a tree. He just keeps talking, he's trimming the tree with the pole saw. And then after a while, the tree's got no branches on it. And they realize, we killed the tree. I mean, that's how it starts. Like, we're going to, hey, we're going to take care of that. Hey, these frauditors and these dickheads, yeah, they're giving the police a hard time. So, we're going to snip that. Just that one little thing. You don't need it. No big deal. I mean, are you one of those frauditors? Are you one of those bad people? Well, if you're not one of those dickheads, who cares? Okay. Well, and then it's like a drug addict. Like the next time is, okay, well, we're going to snip that one. Well, you let us snip this thing. This thing is kind of like that one. So, I mean, that's where it goes. That's where it leads. And that's all I'm trying to say to people. I think you need to be very, very, very careful.
I do agree. You need to be very careful. I don't think that just because something, again, I'm very much slippery slope is a fallacious argument simply because just because something can happen doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. Because I think we need to have certain laws against. Should criminals be allowed to own firearms? Criminals, especially violent criminals, should they be allowed to own firearms? I would say no. I would say no, they shouldn't. I say that because of their transgressions, they have given up that right. But some people will say, well, now what happens if they extend that? Well, then if they try to extend that, then we could talk about that as an individual issue.
Sure.
I do think that we should look at, again, when it comes to anything, when it comes to any law or any issue that's going on, level-headed folks need to come together, sit down, and put everything on the table. And I do mean everything. Every idea that you can think of, let's put it on the table and let's discuss. If we find the ones that just are dumb, then throw it out. We don't need this one. We can agree that this is not necessarily the best idea, so let's not do this.
Sure.
Let's come to a consensus and agreement. Like this little girl here who's covered in water.
Hey, she's probably having a little more fun than us. She got to go swimming.
She did, yeah. She was swimming and
yeah. Judy, you got this. I think that's true. The best laws come out of the worst people, the worst situations. I mean, that's nobody in here is the type of person I'm most likely going to be defending in court. But it's the people who are ending up in court those are the ones who are facing the unconstitutional searches. They're facing the unconstitutional arrest. Their Fifth Amendment right gets violated. The search warrants are bad. The police do X, Y, and Z wrong. I mean, that's that's the land of where this stuff exists. So yeah, I mean, for most people, like, yeah, I'm not gonna, nothing bad's gonna happen to me. Yeah, you're probably right, but that's not, that's not how this works. It's,
Mhm.
other people are paying the freight for your rights.
This is this is an interesting point. Investigator 77 says you have to start
Yeah.
somewhere addressing these people filming people's activities. Should they be able to film children? That's a good question. I
mean,
can tell you right now, somebody rocks up filming my kids, they're gonna deal with an angry Papa Bear for certain.
sure, and you have every right to say, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Right.
And
But
they
does that mean I think that that power should be extended to lawmakers? I don't
yeah,
know.
and you know what you have the right to do as a citizen. You have the right to call the police and say, "Hey, there is a suspicious guy filming children. He might be one of the cheese pizza connoisseurs." Um, just we can't say the p word.
Yeah. Yep.
He might be part of that. He might be part of that international cabal of vampire goblins. To
Right.
quote Alex Jones. You have the right to call the police. The police show up. They figure out who this guy is. Hey, what are you doing? What's going on? Okay, well you can do that. Like, so, yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's like a bulletproof vest. Like, good guys and bad guys, and people can do it. It's not only just robbing banks, but like you can watch people on YouTube, like they buy a bulletproof vest and they shoot each other just to see if it works. Like, it protects the stupid people as well as the
Uh,
good people.
Not always, by the way. Don't. This is not. We nobody on this panel is telling you should go buy a bulletproof vest with your best buddy and find out how well they work.
Yes, do not do that. Do
Don't
not do
do that.
that.
It's just
I
bad.
don't. Yes, that is not legal or nor a fun time
No.
activity advice.
Who was it? This was it was like a year or two ago where the girlfriend and the guy, she shot him or something, like through books or some shit like that.
Yeah, I that one still reeked to me of like a murder. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm sure. Like,
Yeah. I remember
yeah.
reading the article about it thinking, man, this is some bullshit. She shot that motherfucker.
Hmm. Yeah,
Let's see
yeah.
here.
Usually, yeah. It's a great way for the murder to.
Mystery Man says, with rights come responsibility and accountability. If you abuse something, you abuse something gets abused, you're likely to lose it. Do you think that frauditors abuse rights? I think that some frauditors do abuse rights.
Hmm. No, and I agree. I agree with the concept of responsibility and rights, because if you have rights without responsibility, that's tyranny, and if you have responsibility without rights, that's slavery. That both of those are abhorrent concepts. But okay, so am I really abusing that right? I mean, to abuse it claims that you're misusing it. Well, if you have the freedom of speech, you have the freedom of speech. I mean, that idea of abuse then becomes subjective. It's not to your standard. You don't like it. You think that's abuse. And, society may have a standard claiming that's abuse. But if we go by that, then I think that sets a precedent of, well, what does society think is a valid use of a right? And you don't want to, once again, I don't want to go down that road, because society can, determine a lot of things that are, what we have. And that just does not end well. I don't want that happening. Because if you really are worried about sovereign citizens and Karens, oh boy, that gets you into Karenistan very quickly, in my opinion.
Like I said, I like to make fun of sovereign citizens, Karens, and
Sure.
frauditors because I think they're fun. But Sheep says, if you have police coming to your house or stopping you on the street, you must be doing something wrong. I've never had unsolicited contact with any police in my life. I'll tell you this: I have.
I have
I
to.
have had unsolicited contact with police. Um, we weren't doing anything wrong. We were walking from one house, my friend's house, to my house. It was a block and a half away from each other, and we were stopped. What are you guys doing? What do you mean, what are we doing? We're walking. It's pretty obvious. You can see with your own two
Mhm.
eyes that we're walking. My father, who Mexican American, grew up in Los Angeles during the 50s. Loads
Oh,
of
I'm sure the cops
unsolicited.
asked him what's up.
Yes. Going to his job at 3 o'clock in the morning. Hey, Spick, what are you doing out?
Yeah.
I'm going to work. So, Sheep, whereas I'm glad that you've never had to deal with unsolicited uh, police contact. It happens all of the time,
Yes.
all of the time, and disproportionately to a certain group of people. And that's all
Yes.
I'm going to say about that because I
Yeah,
don't
and
hurt
and
people.
that and that's the thing, guys. I mean, yeah, if you are, there are, yeah, if you don't go swimming off South Africa, you're not going to get attacked by sharks. You're not going to see sharks. But if you happen to live in South Africa and you go swimming, you're going to see a lot of sharks. And yeah, I've had a lot of clients who, yeah, they might. There have been times where they haven't been doing anything wrong. They are getting hassled, and sometimes they're getting hassled because they have a prior record and the cops know about them, and the cops are giving them crap. And if they did something wrong, fine. But yes, the police will stop you. I've been stopped by the cops before. I've done nothing wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I walk down the street with a shotgun on my back. The cops are going to stop me. I've done nothing wrong. I'm just carrying a firearm on my back. Does that mean, like, if I did that, I deserve the police to stop me for exercising my right? I mean, like I said, that's kind of where you get to that idea of, well, fuck those guys. And I'm not saying sheep's saying that, but that idea of, well, it's never happened to me, so it's not a problem, I think very quickly goes into that, ends up being that, well, I don't do that, so it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to be very, very, very careful with that, because just
Yeah.
because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and it's
Ron
also,
Jones. Oh, good.
I was just going to say also, too, I mean, yes, the amount of people who are in prison or are ever convicted that are truly innocent is very small. But, when it happens, you're like, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, there are people who didn't do anything wrong, and I think Chili is saying here, yeah, I've had people somebody knocks on the police knock your door and say you did something.
Right.
Look, I mean, that does happen.
Yep. Again, I think that I've always said, film the cops, especially if it's your interaction. Film. Yes, I think you should, just for protection. Does that mean I think you should agitate? Hell no. Ron Dolan says, this might be a stupid question, but what's going to happen when people start using their video for terrorist act in government buildings, finding their weak point?
That happens already. I mean,
yeah,
there was a big case of this down in Key West. A Chinese guy was out filming near, I think, like the SF dive school that's down there. And he was starting to film, and it's clear he wasn't he was filming the installation. And they can, if you're out there just snapping pictures, sure, they are allowed to investigate, figure out what's going on. But really, that's on them to prove that. And it's, once again, guys, that bar, well, terrorism, okay, I get that. But, terrorism also brought us the Patriot Act. We have to be careful about that. If terrorists are that big of a threat, you're concerned about them filming, then hey, make sure you got guys out there watching, hey, this dude's filming. Instead of screwing with my rights, why don't you just make sure you're proactively taking care of what you need to do? There's ways you can protect your, stop this issue without hassling me. So
again, this is one of those ones where, where do we, it's in other words, where do we draw the line? How do we effectively protect ourselves whilst still protecting our rights? It's kind of it's a very tricky thing. It's not a simple solution.
Yeah.
Surely isn't as simple as a one page.
Yes. I agree.
2319. Tones Overthinks, it says internal affairs, civilian review boards, ethics committees, etc. are qualified and paid to deal with bad cops and corruption in the system, not a bunch of clout chasers with camera phones. I tend to agree, because the majority of these clout chasers with camera phones are doing so simply for clicks and views.
Sure. And I think so. And, and for some of them who are just that big of a lunatic, they don't understand governance, though. You are the regulator. I mean, you are the watcher who's watching the watchers. I mean, you should be. I mean, sure, these people are going to be lunatics, but it's once again, you are the oversight for the arm of the government that people have to deal with. I mean, if you don't like that, I guess go sit on, go review the, water meter guy instead. I mean, there is a specific, all these police boards, these review boards, and ethics boards came into place for a reason, because there were issues with police.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, for people, if you want to be the governing body for the, the police, then you should be prepared. People are going to address their grievances to you then. I mean, because if people are saying, well, don't bitch at the cops. Okay, well, who do I go bitch at?
Who do I complain to?
Yeah.
So I don't. Again, it's not the redressing of our government; it's the effective
Yeah.
redressing of our government that I
Oh,
think
sure,
that
sure.
these auditors or frauditors have an issue
Mm-hmm.
with. Sticking a phone and a camera in somebody's face at the
Mm-hmm.
post office, how does that redress our government? That's a private entity that has a contract with our government, sure,
Sure.
but
Mm-hmm.
how are they affecting your First Amendment rights
Yeah.
by delivering mail?
No, I agree. I
Uh,
agree. But the one thing I will say though is, when the founding fathers dealt with like governance, and if you didn't like things going right from your representatives, if that was back in the time where, hey, if you thought your local politicians were corrupt and everybody agreed, you went and stopped by his house and you guys had a social interaction. Sometimes dragging him out of his house and beating him senseless in the street, or if you didn't like how things were done, tarring and feathering. Um,
right.
you might run him out of town and burn his house to the ground. So, um, I would argue, they would probably be they would probably call these auditors, kind of wussies in that respect. But if there are grievances and the right of redress, it was pretty severe back in 1791.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say I'm glad. There are times where there are politicians I'd love to see that happen to. All over the place, both sides of the aisle, all three branches of government. But I'm also kind of glad we're not doing that.
Yeah, it just seems not a productive way to have a civilized society. Mystery Man says rights were not put into place to get clicks and views. I completely agree. Interacting with cops and officials until you get the behavior recorded, gets the clicks and views, is going to be abuse. This is, and again, not
Mm-hmm.
because I disagree with you, Mystery Man. I just think that it's a little bit. I think it's a little bit more nuanced than that.
Mm-hmm.
Flaky Jake says, I wonder how much profiling cops
Mm-hmm.
do. Just because of their prior experiences doesn't excuse it, but in a way, I can see why it happens. I mean, look, cops are human, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all human. We all do everything. Like everybody thinks that prejudice is something negative. Everybody prejudges scenarios. Is what prejudice
Exactly.
means, right? If you grew up and every 6 foot bearded man you knew punched you in the face every time they saw you, when you would see me, you would be
Yeah.
there would be something in the back of your head that says, that guy might punch me in the face. Um, is that necessarily a bad thing? No. But when you dive over into treating people differently because of that prejudice or prejudging or profiling, then we start to kind of dive into that. Well, just because that guy's wearing a big poofy starter jacket, yes, I'm showing my age, doesn't mean he's here to rob
Hey,
you.
I like starter jackets. I had one.
I still have two of them. I gave both to my
Mm.
son. So yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, profiling. It's, yeah, like you said, it's something we do every day. I mean, you make discriminatory choices every day, all day long. If you didn't, you would never get anything accomplished.
Right.
Yeah, so it does suck that they do it, but that's just natural human instinct. And also, yes, for a lot of times, yes, you know, I mean, as much as I'm an attorney, I will say a lot of times the argument of this isn't what it looks like. Well, actually, it's almost always what it looks like. Most of the time, if they see stuff, it's like, okay, I've seen this a million times. Yes, they probably are right. But they still have to follow the rules.
Hmm.
But yes, I
Right.
do agree. But it's hard though when you've got 20 years of like, I've seen this a million times.
Right.
So I don't blame them for it. It's just, acknowledge you have it and work from there.
Right. Judy Ugata says, if we know our history, 9/11 showed us that folks did it, talking about taking pictures when they were, but checking
Mm-hmm.
all of our texts and emails isn't the right way to address the issue. Completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree.
Yep.
Let's see.
Abolish the NSA.
NSA is very dangerous. Miss Glam Girl says, about the shotgun on your back. Yes, I agree that walking around with it is not illegal and most likely not a threat. However, I still think it's okay for the police to investigate it. I think if there's a public call, if somebody calls and says, hey, what's going on? I think the police officers can, if they make contact, should be, hey, what's going on? I'm just minding my own business. All right, cool. Site, whatever. That way, maybe like the illusion of, hey, I checked on him. He's
Well,
fine. He's not doing anything wrong.
yeah, but I would argue though they drive by. Okay, what's going on? The guy's walking down the street. Is he holding it like he's going to kill someone? No, he's on his back. Okay, cool. I'm going to drive by like he's not doing anything wrong.
Right.
Like if they got to call, like, oh my god, a man sitting on a bench reading a book, help us. Like, okay, is it really a book? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go, eat a donut. I don't think they always have to make contact. Now, yes, if I'm walking down the street with it in both hands, looking like I'm gonna start playing duck
Right.
hunt with everybody at the marshals down the street, yeah, they should be able to say, hey man, what's going on? Are you all right? But I was just pointing that out too. I think it was Sheep saying, well, I've never done anything wrong, so the police don't ever come after it. Like, that's an example of doing nothing wrong, and the police would interact with you. So
Right.
I was just using that as an example of, just because you get lit up doesn't mean you're a bad person or breaking the law.
Mm-hmm. Raven Darkstar says it has never been legal to film inside police stations. Judge have ran over the courthouse, not just room. These were in place long before cell phones.
And I think, and that's true, but I still think, those are, that's, yes, old standing laws, but that doesn't make them valid. I mean, I'm to the point where I think I should be able, like anybody here in the stream, like Monday morning when courts are open across America, you should be able to go to your state, like Supreme Court, and you should be able to click on a list of like every county in your state. And then if you click on that link, every courtroom in that county, aside from like juvenile court and family court where things are protected. And if they have stuff going on, you should be able to watch what's going on there. I understand judges don't like it when some random Yahoo comes in and films because they might edit it and they might clip things out. But that, I think all courtrooms, federal court, I think the Supreme Court, I think all of that should be open to people. You should see how the sausage is being made. Whether it's civil cases or criminal cases.
I would tend to agree for the most part. There are some, especially like custody cases and cases dealing with children, that would like, I don't think we need to, because of those issues with kids, and there could be some women or some men who are victims of domestic violence, trying to stay, try to put that distance between them and their partner. When do we make concessions for that?
I mean, that all that's going to be record. I mean, because if you do that domestic violence thing, I can go get the transcript of it. Your name's in there.
Sure,
the jurors know. But
right.
I don't like the idea of, especially in a criminal context, I don't like the idea of a private trial. I'm sure this is a horrible thing for you that happened to you, and it's not fair. But remember, at the end of the day, it's still not about that victim's rights. It's about the accused rights. And I think Kyle Rittenhouse is a great example of that. I'm sure the people, Gage Gruskrutz was up there, crying and like, oh my gosh, it was so dangerous. Sure, and you're a victim. But that's not, your rights are not the paramount rights there. It's the guy sitting at the defendant's table of rights. And
as far as the trial is concerned, I would agree. Vert de Ferk says, let's face it, there are asshats in every part of the world. When we fix the police, we are going after Walmart, Starbucks, Target, PetSmart. Humans are flawed AF. Yes, we are. We are flawed individuals. SAP Upgrade says, I got the gift you sent so long ago, I'm sure you forgot, just like I did. No. I'm glad you got it. I was just about to ask.
Oh, nice. I was going to say here, this Janice, she says, what about the dangerous people in the events the NSA has stopped? That's fine. And here's an example of somebody said, well, if you abuse your rights, they go away. Well, the government, doesn't get to fuck around and abuse your rights and say, oh, well, look, we're doing good things. No, if they're abusing your rights, that's great. The guy, the drug dealer on the block keeps the other drug dealers away. Like, that's, I guess, kind of helpful, but you still have a drug dealer on your block.
Mm-hmm.
I always going to say is I just think that, that's, I mean, if we're, of the argument saying if you abuse your rights, you lose them. I mean, if we're going to have that argument, then why is the government not being held to that standard?
Oh, I think that there are certain things that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, because exactly, if they're abusing my rights, because really the government has no rights. The government's rights come from, now I sound like Chile. I'm talking about popular sovereignty, but except I understand what I'm talking about.
We
and also
have to get to a trifold. Once we get to a trifold, there you go.
Yeah, I mentioned this, but I've talked about this before in my streams, which I do every Thursday, 9:30 Eastern. Jean-Jacques Rousseau is an awful philosopher. I mean, yeah, his theories sound great, but then under Rousseau's idea, 51% of the population could vote to eat the 49%, and that's a legal thing because everybody agreed to it by majority vote. So, um, but no, it's the government gets its rights and its authority from me and you and everybody else. So
Right.
if they abuse us, they should lose that right.
We
The
should, yeah.
difference,
Again,
yeah,
redressing our government. I think we should have.
yeah,
I think we should be redressing our government when this stuff happens.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's just what's an appropriate way to do it? What's an effective way? Not necessarily appropriate way. What's an effective way to do it?
yeah.
Flaky Jake says, I still say you got profiled because of the beard, Johnny. Probably did. Although this was I was in high school playing basketball, so I wasn't allowed to have the beard. But Ryan Dolan says, my last question is, how are these frauditors in the two-party consent states getting away with audio, videotaping conversation without everyone consent? Nothing being said about that.
Well, generally this is in public, so there's that issue.
Right.
There's also
privacy in public.
there's also another argument. I made this in court before, and it has shut other parties up. Is this idea of wiretapping? It's a third party listening.
Mm-hmm.
You need the two parties have to agree, because think about it. If me and you are talking on the phone and I sit there and I'm a stenographer and I write it out word for word, boom, 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 the whole way through, is that really any different than me recording it? No, it's not. I literally recorded and documented the conversation. Does that mean I should go to jail for that? No, it would be preposterous to think you can't record your own conversations or document them. I mean, let's say I have a completely photographic memory and I could repeat it all out. Let's say I can imitate your voice and I could go back and forth, like a spaz over the conversation. Did I technically, record that? I mean, yes, I would argue you did under that standard. And this idea of like the third party, it's meant so like a third party can't wiretap and listen to your phone calls. That's what these laws were like really meant for. Now, attorneys who are conscious about sue crazy tell corporations like we're recording this call.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But the way I've always looked at these laws, and I feel like the way they should be treated is, somebody can't tap into your phone call and listen without permission.
Right.
That's the way it should be. It shouldn't be me and you are talking and, I didn't give you permission to record what we were talking about. Well, if I remember it and I say, hey, me and Johnny just got off the phone and here's what he said. I mean, if people are going to say, like, you can't record that phone call, me reciting what we said, I think would be just as illegal. And, that would be kind of nonsensical also. Not saying you believe that, I'm just using you as an example.
No, for certain.
Yeah.
Mystery Man says, yes, the government does abuse their powers, as do lawmakers. They should be held to account. Totally agree. Absolutely.
Yep.
When you step out of line, you most definitely should be held accountable for your mistakes.
Yeah.
I do think that we should hold police officers to a high standard. Absolutely. Yes. Those are the people whom we pay to be professionals. It's your job to be a professional. It's your job to as correctly as possible, uphold and apply law. And when you don't do that, you should be held to a very high standard. Shooting a kid in the back, was a 14-year-old kid? No, what was it? I read.
Which one are you talking about? Let's see. That's a sad part. I have to ask you which one we're talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah.
There was one that happened. It wasn't a shooting. It was a police officer who he was off duty. I think it was in somewhere. I think it was in Illinois. It could have been Detroit, Chicago, where this officer witnessed a 14-year-old kid riding a bike, stops, gets off his bike to move another bike out of the way, and because this officer thought he was stealing his bike, tackles him and pins him to the ground with his knee in his back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not okay with that. That's completely that's way out of line. Let's say he was stealing the bike.
Mm-hmm.
Is a $150 bicycle worth somebody's life?
Well, are you saying he tackled him or he shot the person? I'm not sure.
No, this one is just a tackling. He just tackled him and pinned him to the ground with his knee in his back.
Yeah, yes. No, I agree. It's like, I'm sure, that sounds like the kind of cop who would do that for every littering offense he saw. No, that is a bit much. But, if the cops were just doing that, the world the things would be 100% better than they are right now. Sadly, just tackling people. I mean, if that's all the cops did
If
wrong,
that's
oh
all
my
they
god.
did wrong, then yeah, we
Yeah,
would.
I'd be thrilled, but yeah, no, I'd argue there's no need for that. Tackling that kid, like, was he gonna steal both bikes? Okay, well then, call your buddies up who are working that day. Like, why are you causing? Why are you trying to get some overtime or what?
Well, the thing is, you didn't even
Yeah,
ask. You didn't even stop to assess the situation.
yeah,
That's part of being. That's part of that
mm-hmm.
professionalism that we demand.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And I hope that kid got a 1983 claim out of it too.
I'm not sure. It said Angel Rivera
Mm.
says it was Chicago, and the young man is Puerto Rican but looks mestizo. So, I mean, I'm sure that had something to do with it as well. Um, Flaky Jake. I miss the days in my younger years when I could flirt my way out of a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
I never had those days, I got to say. I never had those days. Um,
Neither did I. Neither did I.
if that $150 is a single mother's only way to get to work and feed her children, then its theft would be the end of the world to them. An extreme example of a personal property is personal. No, I understand. Look, I get it, right? And having this conversation with a coworker, yeah, I said, look, it's different. Like if I went and stole Sean's car,
Yeah.
that's his livelihood, right? That's how
Mm-hmm.
you get to and from the office to take care of. That's how you feed yourself, your family. That's how you pay your bills. That's your livelihood,
Sure.
right? We're not talking about somebody's. We're not talking about
Mm-hmm.
somebody's automobile livelihood. We're talking about, look,
Yeah.
my kids, they have bikes. Kids have bikes,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want them stolen. Put them away.
Yeah. But no, I agree. In your situation, it sounds like the cop didn't even figure out what was going on before he jumped in. So it's like, how do you know that wasn't his? Like, if you're going to use force, you better be, damn sure you're doing it right. Especially as a random person on the street, because
Yep.
now I just see some random guy attacking a kid, and like, what the hell am I going to think of that if I were to see
Yeah,
that?
right. Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's another thing. Because he was off duty, he wasn't in uniform.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm, walking down the street and I see some grown
Mm-hmm.
man beating on some 14-year-old
Mm-hmm.
child, now I'm getting involved because I see an assault happening, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be arrested because this cop was not professional. He didn't do his job. Sketch Crasher says, I tried to flirt my way out of a ticket. She doubled the fine.
Ooh. Ooh. Yeah.
Yep. It's crazy. It's insane. There needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Dave Malik says, sorry, but theft is theft. Don't care if it's a bike or a car. No, I understand what people say.
But
I
was it
understand.
theft?
Yeah, but was it theft? It wasn't. He was just moving the bike. He was in his way. He said, let me move his bike. He wasn't trying to take it.
Or yeah, he was just being a good citizen, moving it off the road. Like, hey, I wouldn't want my bike getting run over.
Right. And that's the problem. This officer who didn't take the time to assess the situation.
I mean,
Um,
Dave, this would be almost akin to like if you saw a car sitting on the side of the road, and it was about to rain, and you open the door to roll the window up. The cop sees you opening the door. Oh, he must be stealing it. It's like, no, you were just trying to, whatever you were doing, you weren't doing anything wrong.
I mean, me, I just wouldn't. I would let the rain get in. I'd be like, look, fuck yourself. Should have rolled your window up.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, I agree. I wouldn't do that. I don't recommend you go fucking around with other people's stuff.
No, yeah.
It always saves you time.
Yeah, really. I mean, yeah, same thing. But again, the problem I have is not the fact that it could have been stolen. The fact is, it wasn't being stolen; it was just being moved out of the way. And
Sure.
B, this officer didn't take the time to properly assess the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Schrodinger's cat says she doesn't see us. Try reloading. We should be okay. We should be there. It might be
Yeah.
a good thing you can't see us though, because I don't want to speak for Sean, but I'm not
I'm,
exactly
uh,
Casa fucking Nova over here.
yeah, no, yeah, no, I'm not Rico Suave myself.
Um, Well, I got to say that this has been an interesting conversation. Yeah, Dave Malik. No worries, no worries. Speak your mind. Speak your mind.
Yeah, it's all good. No, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and also anybody here, like if I pointed you out, I just because I happen to see what you said there. No, take no. Yeah, take no offense. I happen to notice your comments.
right. Yeah, like I said, some of you guys are new over here in the side chat, and I appreciate all of you. Subscribe to that. You might like what I do. If you don't, that's cool, whatever. But I always try and facilitate a welcoming place where anybody can speak their mind, say whatever they want to say. Um, Is so long, we're not going to get to any isms, or we're not going to be abusive towards other people. We're going to try and keep it respectful, try and keep level heads about it. We can disagree. Sean and I disagree about certain things. We're not screaming, yelling at each other.
Not yet.
Not yet. We'll get there, I
Yes.
imagine. Joshua Lee says, hello, Johnny O. Hello, hello. Zachariah Hooper says, I'm not what you would call a looker. But you might be a hooker. Just kidding. Kidding. Is okay to burn down a city? We all sit back and assess the situation. It worked out real well. That's a complete.
I don't know how we got from there. I don't know how we get from there to where we are right now.
How we're making that connection.
Yeah.
Going from this 14-year-old child moving a bicycle.
Yes, moving on bicycles are the
burning a
yes. Now the unraveling of civil society as we know it. Yes, democracy, the god that failed because we moved a bike.
Because he moves a bicycle. Yeah, that's false equivalency would be.
What? Maybe I don't know if it's a false equivalency. I just don't know. Maybe he jumped ahead a couple of steps and didn't bring us along. I do that once in a while myself, so it's okay.
Ben Singer says apples, oranges. I would say apples, potato bat.
Apples and dump trucks. Yeah.
Skits Crasher, who's been a plot hole crew member for 8 months, says, "What? I come with the first fist fight. I've been robbed."
8 months. Hey, you got some. Make sure you guys, obviously you guys have been here longer than I have, but yeah, give them a like, give them a subscribe. Yes, be a member. 8 months. That's awesome stuff.
No, I understand he's referencing the BLM riots, and I don't believe anybody here said that the rioting is okay. I don't think anybody here said rioting is okay.
Yeah.
I just don't think that we should be tackling 14-year-olds moving bicycles or touching bicycles without properly assessing the situation.
Yes. A 14-year-old getting tackled from a bicycle will cause a riot. So
yeah. But Bridge the Divide 4, who's been a plot hole member for 18 months, says, "What up? What's up, JL? Good to see you, brother." That connection is some of the whataboutisms. Yeah, I don't like whataboutisms. Well, what about this? What about that? Okay, we're not talking about. Those are two completely different situations, and we need to focus on this right here. Because focusing on the little things, believe it or not, these little things tend to fester and turn into big things when you don't fix the small ones. Sheep, no, I get it. I understand. Don't touch other people's property. That's what I learned. I understand. Yeah. But again,
I also think, if a kid says, hey, trying to do something nice for somebody, people try to do nice things for each other all the time,
Right. We're still in the face for it.
Yeah. So, I was going to say though, and I learned this from one of my teachers in high school, an avalanche is built out of a bunch of snowflakes, and a flood is built of a bunch of raindrops. So, yeah, you got to focus on the little things.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few examples I usually bring up when speaking about these issues between police officers and communities. I think it was, I want to say, who was it? I want to say it was in Oakland. Oh, really quick, Flaky Jake says, for Sean, where would someone go to learn about law as a non-lawyer layperson?
Well, I tell you to come to my channel. But no, I mean, in reality, it's hard to. It's hard to, that's like if I wanted to go learn how to be an electrical engineer, short of taking like engineering classes. I mean, I could read an engineering book. Well, God, I can't because I suck at math. But if I were to read an engineering book and have an understanding of math, that's still, maybe I understand enough to go out and hurt myself. But, I mean, that's kind of the limits to it. I mean, I would say, go to a law library and start reading through some of the stuff that's there. And, you might be able to understand some of the things there. You could read some of the books and, they have like all kinds of like test materials and, they break down, like there's, for example, in law school, I used to use these. It was called examples and explanations. And I would study them prior to a final because it would break things down like to a 5-year-old. And just, yeah, there's resources like that are out there and that can help you, but it's still at the end of the day, it's like whatever your job happens to be out there when you ask that question. I don't know what it is, but maybe I can learn a little bit about doing it, but I would have to actually do it and be trained on it to do it right.
Mhm.
So, like I said,
Well,
I'm not trying to say that like,
yeah, it's yeah.
haha,
I
you
don't
can't
think
learn
I
it.
think it's coming across a little more. I don't want to say condescending, but it's coming across. I don't think it's coming across right because I understand what you're saying. It's not.
Yeah.
You can, and I think that the idea.
Oh, and
Yeah.
I don't think it was condescending
No, no,
either,
no, no,
though.
no, 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 not at all. I think the get out there and read the law books and ask questions. You get
Sure.
pick Sean's brain. Hey, what does it mean? What does
Yeah.
stare decisis mean? What do these terms mean, and how does it apply to this stuff here? These laws here. By the way, there, Flaky Jake. To answer your other question, the link to Sean's channel is in the description below this video here. So follow that, and
Sure.
like I said, follow some of your
Yeah.
like Law Talk with Mike, and some
Yeah.
other guys that actively participate in.
Yeah.
Natalie Lawyer Chick, I think, is one of the. She's one of
Natalie's
my
great.
favorites.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say like Natalie, Nate the lawyer, Mike. You guys ask questions, they will answer them. And the other people on the other attorneys that are out there, if you ask questions, they will try to answer them the best they can. And
Right.
they're not afraid. There's no such thing as a dumb question because if you're thinking it, a million other people are thinking it
Right.
too. So, ask away.
The Rabbit for $5 says, Johnny, your guest is questionable, and photographic memory doesn't record audio; it remembers images. If I wasn't at work, I would want to question him. I mean, fair point.
Okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not. Whatever they call it, where that person can remember everything word for word, like a deidetic memory or something.
Right.
You get the point. If I remembered it exactly word for word, I remembered your tone and pitch, and I could recite it that way. Would that count as technically me recording the conversation?
It was a
Yes.
more hyperbolic than let's be,
Yes.
yeah. So
Yes,
Vert DeFerk, go ahead.
Yes, you're correct, Rabbit. Yes, axiomally, yes, you're correct.
Vert DeFerk said for $5 says, thank you for a calm and measured discussion. Absolutely is what we try to provide here as opposed to screaming and shouting matches. Hey, there's a saber-toothed tiger. Look at that. It's eating my arm right now. Janice Farmer says that follows that old adage of watch for pennies and the dollars will watch themselves. Janice, I have to admit, and this is probably because I'm a dirty old man, I did not see pennies.
I saw that for a second myself.
And then Investigator 77 has become a new YouTube plot hole crew member. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Yeah. Sheep Eye buying trifolds for Christmas presents. You go right ahead. Buy those trifolds. Those are fun. There's actually kind of a gag gift. I would buy some just to put in people's stockings. Like, ha ha.
Oh. Yeah, put them in stockings of people you don't like, so they get in trouble.
Exactly. All right, so that's going to bring us to the end of the show. Sean, thank you so much for talking with me, speaking with me about this really badly written 2319 law.
Yeah,
I'm going
I look forward to it.
Talking about 2319, do you know what 2319 is in the context of Monsters Inc.?
Yeah, that's when you come out with people stuff on you.
But why is it 2319 instead of 2319 or 2319?
Ooh. I'm gonna have to say I don't know because I don't have the Disney Trivial Pursuit.
All right, so what's the 23rd letter of the alphabet?
Oh god, I gotta go backwards. Like X?
Nope, it's W.
W. Okay.
What's the 19th letter?
I'll pass.
S.
Okay.
WS. What was the people thing that ended up on the guy's back?
White sock.
White sock. That's where 2319 comes from. See, shit like that gets locked in here.
Now I got it.
The square root of.
Well, and everybody's socks are white. Yeah, in that, generically.
But yeah, white sock. So bad. Anyway, I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate you having a level-headed discussion. We agree on some things, we disagree on others, which is perfectly fine. Things that I would like to make sure and foster are these types of conversations. Sean, what do you have coming up on your channel?
Well, I'm going to be talking about Chili's trifold and why it's an absolute disaster. I will say this much as I bag on Chili, he is correct. You have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and you should never consent to any searches under any circumstance.
Correct.
Those are like the only two things he's got right. The rest of it is just so wrong. And Rabbit, you're asking against questioning for the purpose of public safety. Do I believe in constitutional carry? Yes. Rabbit, I wish I had a battery of Chinese cruise missiles sitting next to my tomato plants in my backyard. Okay, that's what I believe in. I mean, that like I said, I've got that. Well,
Yeah, it's
screws up all
bad.
the time.
Yeah, it messes
Yes,
you up. Yeah.
I do it all the time. I've got that sitting right there. That's an RPG too that I'm reactivating under the ATF. Why? Because I want to shoot rockets with it. Why? Because I think it'll be fun. Um, so
I did miss one membership chat from Aaron Reese, who's been a plot hole crew member for 9 months. Says big problems are simply collections of small ones. Absolutely correct.
very true.
Yep.
You got some wise members.
You know what? These folks that tune in to listen to me, a lot of them are smarter than I am, which is kind of not really saying a lot, but
Oh, and that's the other thing, guys. I'm not going to tell you I'm the smartest person in the world. I am far from it. Especially if I'm interacting with the other attorneys on YouTube. I'm probably the dumbest guy on the panel, so I'm not going to come in here and try to tell you guys I'm the smartest man around.
I would like to have you back and have you speak with a buddy of mine, PhD Tony, who is on the complete opposite side of the Second Amendment argument that you are, just to kind of play ringmaster and stir the pot a little bit. I think that would be a lot of fun.
The one thing I could tell you is in life, I did go to law school because I like doing this, but I have no problem throwing grenades everywhere. If that's something I enjoy doing from time to time.
Well, like I said, we'd like to keep it.
Oh, I have no problem keeping it civil, but I have no problem.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
every now and again, fireworks are fun. In the hands of responsible adults, fireworks are an amazing time.
yes.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I really do appreciate all my channel members, all the super chats, everybody who's hung out in the side chat and interacted with us and given us questions. Hi, puppy. You guys are what make this show fun. I've had a great time. Sean, thank you once again.
Thank you for having me on, Johnny.
Absolutely. We'll get you back on. And again, I'll see if I can't work it up with PhD Tony. I think it'll be fun. Thank you all. It's time. Everybody, I always end my videos with finger guns. So show me all my members, all new members. Oh, Stephen Cup of Reason, who's been a plot hole headbanger for 9 months. Sorry I missed the stream. Was up early for my premiere and fell asleep again afterward. We'll rewind and watch from the beginning. You'll have a lot of fun. Score. Thank you so much for tuning in. Everybody, show me your finger guns. Let's see them. There we are. All righty.